Alright, how's it going everyone? So Patrick Rose here today. I'm a photographer based in Christchurch, New Zealand. In today's video, I like to talk about different vlogging cameras you could get for reasonably affordable prices or just looking into getting into vlogging. So the reason I'm doing this video is based on the new Nikon Z30, as it's advertised as a dedicated vlogging camera for a lot of content creators. And there's plenty of other cameras which content creators can also use, including for YouTube, for Instagram, TikTok, you name it. So I've written down a list and I've got over here quite a few cameras just to go through all, and I will show most samples of the video quality of each one. So for starters, the first camera you'll probably look into, and it's one that you'll most likely have on you anyway, is your smartphone here. Right here I've got my Samsung Galaxy A02. This is about a $200 200 New Zealand dollar phone, but it does exactly what I need it to do, which is I can make calls, I can use apps, so forth. But it also does both photo and video. And now I'm going to be showing you the video quality. Right, so this is the Samsung Galaxy A02s. So this is the smartphone video quality, and I'm using the selfie screen. This camera here I purchased 200 New Zealand dollars. Again, with smartphones, you can spend a lot of money or very little money on a smartphone. Smartphones are very, very useful for many other purposes besides being a dedicated camera. But if you're looking for something affordable and very convenient, definitely use a smartphone. So definitely use your phone, because smartphone technology has been improving in recent years, and most likely smartphones are going to be taking over more of the market. Right, next on the category is camcorders. You can get any sort of camcorder between $30 to well over $1,000 depending on the brand, the quality, and just where you get it from. In this case right here, I have an old Samsung Handycam camcorder, which I got for my 15th birthday. This thing is worth, probably nowadays you're looking at like $30, probably on eBay or something like that. So very, very cheap, but does an alright kind of job. But here's the video quality from this camera. Right, so right here I am filming with the Samsung camcorder. This is the first camcorder I got back in 2011 when I was in high school. As you can see, the video quality not so good, very, very cheap. It's supposed to be recording at 1080, I believe at 60, maybe 30 frames per second. There's very limitation on ISO controls, white balance. Most things are done automatically. Does okay outdoors, but in an indoor environment like this, obviously the video quality just ain't up to it. But this is camera itself nowadays, you're probably looking at $30, but you can get some other higher end camcorders for around 300, 600, sometimes 1,000, but as I've said, the camcorders are one of the dying products. And the next camera you can use for vlogging are action cameras. Now, I currently don't own an action camera like I used to. I used to own a few GoPros and Sony action cameras, but for an action camera you can get them for roughly 80 New Zealand dollars brand new, depending on the brand and manufacturer, to well over $1,000, again depending on brand and manufacturer. The three main brands in 2022 are GoPro, Insta360, and DJI I mean. There are a few other ones such as Sony, and I believe Ricoh still sells a action camera or something like that, but there's quite a few. And there's also 360 video, 360 cameras as well, which can also be used for vlogging if you're really interested. And since I don't have any video footage for today's video just on an action camera. I've actually used this, my EM10 Mark IV with the Samyang lens here, just to try and replicate what you would get with some action cameras. Not all, but just a few of them. Right, so at this stage I'm just filming with the Olympus EM10 Mark IV with the Samyang 7.5mm fisheye lens. With this fisheye lens, it's just to replicate what some of the older action cameras, this is what the video quality would look like with some older action cameras like the GoPro Hero 3, the Hero 3 Plus, Hero 4, kind of, even some of the old Sony action cameras, so forth. As I've mentioned earlier, the action cameras have been updating their features, and instead of being stuck with this ultra wide angle field of view, they've actually been able to crop down a little bit. So instead of having an ultra wide angle lens, it's now a much narrower field of view, which is very, very useful, especially if you want to get into vlogging or just want to do some simple videos without ultra wide angle. In addition, with modern action cameras, you can also attach external filters just to get better, much cleaner results. Another type of camera I forgot to mention is compact cameras. You can get any sort of point-and-shoot camera or compact camera from any sort of brand. Many of the cheaper point-and-shoot cameras that were like a few $100s back 10 years ago, so back in 2010 and stuff, you could probably get secondhand for even cheaper, like $25 or something like that. Some of the older cameras can do some decent video, but with these more modern compact cameras like this LX100 or the Fuji X100 series, the Sony RX100 series, or whatever other RX series they've got at the moment, or the Canon G7, like G7X kind of cameras, have articulating screens, or tilting screens I should say. Some do have articulating screens that come out to the side like that, but more importantly, they can shoot fantastic video quality between 1080, like so full HD, or even going the extra step 4K between 30 or 60p. But here's some video footage with this camera just to show what the quality is like. So right here I've got the Panasonic Lumix LX100 Mark II just filming me for this video here. This camera is representing just some of the modern compact point-and-shoot cameras for vlogging. With the Panasonic cameras, they normally have like a fixed lens, but the LX10 or LX15, depending where you are, does have a fully tilting up screen. Meanwhile, most other camera manufacturers such as Canon and Sony have a 180 tilt up screen. Meanwhile, other camera manufacturers such as some of the older Olympus cameras, when they did some compact cameras, even some Nikon point-and-shoot cameras have a 180-degree tilt down screen. That's a good use if you're looking for a decent budget for just a vlogging camera. Most compact cameras, you're looking brand new, you're probably looking at between $150 to just under $1,000, depending what camera you're looking for, what kind of model, and some of the specs. But like with some of the compact cameras, they're pretty decent with video quality, and depending how things go in the near future, compact cameras may still be in the market, but still keeping in mind that smartphones are also just taking over a lot of the consumer market. Next on the list are DSLRs. The DSLR is pretty much a pioneering camera for vloggers. This camera here is the Canon 600D or T3i if you're from the States, which has a fully articulating screen so you can actually see yourself as you're recording. Has a built-in besides a built-in microphone, an external port for a microphone, so this is really good for some basic video. You're looking at, for like a brand new DSLR, you're probably looking between that $200 to $5,000 or something like that, but that depends on what you're looking for, as DSLRs are also good imaging tools as well as video tools. So that's just something to keep in mind. Now, here's some video footage with this camera. Alright, so right here I am filming with the Canon EOS 600D. This camera is representing just the DSLR cameras, and with DSLR cameras there is Pentax, Nikon, Canon, and some older Sony cameras. As you can see with video quality, the 600D is very, I won't say it's terrible, but it's definitely a good step up from what you would get from, say, a smartphone. With the DSLR, you can adjust your ISO, shutter speed, and aperture, which is always good. And you can also change lenses. So right now I'm recording with the 18 to 55mm kit lens, but you can also use the 24mm or any DSLR lens that's made for Canon. If you're shooting with a Nikon, same thing, you do that with a Nikon camera, so use Nikon F mounts, and there's plenty of lenses as they've been around since the 90s, so you got plenty of options in terms of choosing different lenses for video. One slight drawback about using a DSLR for video, particularly with the older Canon cameras, is they've had issues with overheating, and sometimes, not always, but sometimes they've also had issues with autofocus. Now, the DSLRs have been the pioneering camera for many content creators. A lot of people have used Canon or Nikon and stuff just to do vlogs and stuff. If you're interested in looking into a DSLR, you're probably spending between $200 or somewhere around $1,000, maybe over $1,000, depending what type of DSLR camera you choose. But again, DSLRs are slowly moving out of the market as mirrorless cameras are becoming more and more popular and much more convenient just to carry around and use. Now to head into more of the modern interchangeable lens cameras are mirrorless cameras. Right here is my Olympus Pen Mini. This is a camera that came out in 2011. It does do video at 1080 at 30 frames. Unfortunately, I cannot show any of the video files at this stage, as this camera for no reason has been malfunctioning. I can't do video with this camera, sadly, but with these older cameras like the EPM 1 here, the GF1, some of the early Sony NEX series, the Nikon 1 series, and early Canon EOS M cameras would shoot, some of them would shoot decent quality video. This camera here does what's called AVI output, so it's not like MP4 or MOV video, and the video quality on this isn't the greatest out there. So that's just something to keep in mind if you're looking at some of these older mirrorless cameras. So this is the video quality from the Olympus Pen EPM 1. Hopefully this time it's working. I've just formatted the memory card. I presume that the memory card was just malfunctioning because of the Samsung camcorder I was trying out with. This is the video quality for the Olympus Pen EPM 1, and much like many other cameras back in its time, which is in 2011, quite a few cameras would use an AVI video output compared to nowadays, which is more MOV or MP4. This is what the video quality looks like. It's not, as you can see, it's not like the best, but you can still adjust some of the features such as your ISO, shutter, and aperture, so that way you can get much smoother video. As this is a early mirrorless camera as well, you can use any sort of lenses. So right here is the 14 to 42 kit lens, but I could also use the Samyang 12mm f2 or any other micro four third lens available for Olympus or Panasonic. Now the last camera to mention, going through from the earlier mirrorless cameras, is modern mirrorless cameras. The modern, so with mirrorless cameras now, they have pretty much replaced the entire DSLR category, and for video users, they've actually been just as good as dedicated cinema cameras, which I should have mentioned as well in this video as well, like the cinematography, like just cinema cameras, but I don't own a dedicated cinema camera and they can be very, very pricey. But right here is my Olympus EM10 Mark IV. This camera here, you're looking between, in New Zealand here, between $600 to, again, over $5,000, depending what camera brand you choose, the quality, so forth. As this camera is a micro four thirds camera, I can use any sort of lens. So I've got this Samyang lens here, or I can use another micro four third lens, and very easy to change focal lengths. Even now, I'm currently recording with the EM5 Mark II with the 12 to 40 Pro zoom lens, and other advantages with the mirrorless cameras, and same thing can be said about DSLRs, is you have the use of the filter thread, so you can actually use ND filters, microphone input, so you can use an external microphone. You got full HD, you got 4K video, even some new mirrorless cameras are now pushing 6K, 8K, so forth, so you get high quality video. Now at this stage, with mirrorless cameras, they're just bringing in newer and newer products. Newer cameras are coming out, as well as plenty of lenses, whether you're shooting with Nikon, Panasonic, OM system, Fujifilm, then you're good to go. Like, there's plenty of lenses for each camera. So with the new Canon RF series, you can also get adapters, and not just with Canon, but even with any other mirrorless camera, you can get dedicated adapters to use, say, this 18 to 55 kit lens from Canon onto a mirrorless camera from Canon, Nikon, Sony, etc., etc. So that's a real big benefit about using mirrorless cameras, because you have access to all these different lenses, and yeah, it just gives you more versatility and options. Right, thank you very much for checking out this video. Hope this has helped you out in a way. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Feel free to check out my website at www.patrickrose.co.nz, and I'll see you guys in a future video.